Hey everyone, I'm back with another episode of the AC podcast today. We're going to have a 3-part series this week, and I'm going to tell you guys why. The Eagles played last night, so I'm going to just be talking about them today. The rest of the NFL plays on Sunday, and the Steelers play on Monday, so I'm going to be giving you guys bonus coverage. So I'm giving you today, I'm giving you Monday, and then I'm going to give you preview of the Steelers game on Tuesday, so you guys have your pick of the litter of what you want to listen to and whatnot. I'm going to get right into it. I don't plan to be on here for too long, maybe about 10-15 minutes to talk about the game last night, what I saw, the concerns I have, and just the overall outlook as usual. So I'm going to get right into it. Last night, Eagles defeat the Packers 34-27, went down 10-0 early in the game. Then a kickoff return of 60-something yards was returned by Miles Sanders, igniting the team, and Carson Wentz led a touchdown drive ultimately. But I still have concern. We got a win last night. I'm happy about that. Offense looked good. Special teams made some things happen. But I have some concerns. But I'm going to get into the good first. Carson Wentz looked good, 16-27, 160 yards, 3 touchdowns. And I don't want to hear anyone, I'm going to make this clear, I don't want to hear anyone talking about the fact that Carson Wentz had 160 yards throwing. He had 3 short fields. One because Mason Crosby kicked the ball out of bounds and the drive started at the 40. Another one because Miles Sanders returned a kickoff return 60-plus yards. And another one because of a fumble. So I don't want to hear anything about Carson Wentz's passing numbers, number one. Number two reason why I don't want to hear anything about his passing numbers is because the Eagles finally ran the ball. Did you guys know that Carson Wentz hasn't had a 100-yard rusher in 32 straight games? That's 2 full seasons of football that he hasn't had a 100-yard rusher. I'm not talking about a game where the team hasn't had 100 rushing yards. I'm talking about a 100-yard rusher. That's unbelievable that this man has had no running game to speak of. No running game to speak of. Let me just give you guys something. Carson Wentz is an elite thrower to football, and he showed it yesterday. I get he only threw for 160 yards, but I keep telling you guys, Carson Wentz is the most talented thrower of the football other than Patrick Mahomes, who seems to just have godlike ability to throw the football. Carson Wentz is that talented of a thrower, which makes him an elite. Is he an elite quarterback? I don't think so yet. He's in the second tier, but he's on his way. And he played a great game yesterday. But what impressed me even more than Carson Wentz, because I expected him to show up, he's been doing his job. It's been the receivers dropping the ball. They have let go of 2 games. If the Eagles catch 2 balls, Nelson Aguilar and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. We'd be undefeated. If our receivers had hands, we would be undefeated right now, 4-0. But instead, we're 2-2. And now that we're 2-2, we have to climb back in this division and hope that Dallas loses some games, because it's looking like they have a cakewalk of a schedule. A cakewalk. They get to play New Orleans this Sunday. Prime time. Without Drew Brees, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, an elite passer of the football. So the Eagles got some ground to make up. And last night, they did something spectacular. But about this running game, Doug Peterson finally stuck with the running game. The Packers, I love their defense, but they're suspect to the run. And yesterday, they showed it. Eagles ran the ball 32 attempts for 176 yards. Another reason why Carson Wentz didn't have a spectacular throwing day. Jordan Howard had a coming out party. He finally got the ball, which is something I've been hoping for. 15 attempts for 87 yards and a touchdown, 2 touchdowns rushing. And he had a receiving touchdown, got himself a hat trick. And for those who don't know what a hat trick is, it's scoring 3 touchdowns in a game. Miles Sanders looked good, that 60-plus yard return on the kickoff. And he had 11 attempts for 72 yards. Him and Jordan Howard looked like lightning and thunder, or thunder and lightning last night. If the Eagles could keep that up, that'll be something beautiful, because you can keep this defense off the field. And the O-line looked good yesterday. They finally blocked for Carson Wentz. I think he's been hit so many times. He's been hit too many times. We have $107 million invested behind that offensive line. Someone's got to protect them. I was looking at the offensive line like, hey, y'all are some hogwats up there. Y'all are some big mollies up there. Why are y'all not protecting the investment? There's 3 All-Pros on the offensive line and 4 former Pro Bowlers, if you think about it. You have Lane Johnson, probably the best right tackle in football. You have Brandon Brooks. I get he's coming off an Achilles injury, but he's still an All-Pro. Jason Kelsey, who's been a Pro Bowler and All-Pro. And then you have the Hall of Famer that is Jason Peters. You have 4 dudes who have been a Pro Bowler or All-Pro. That means you're elite at your position. They don't give those type of recognitions to scrubs. And we had semblance of a running game. Couldn't run against the Falcons. Barely ran against the Lions. But yet last night showed that this Eagles offensive line can put hats on dudes when they really need to and when they want to. And that's what I need them to continue to do in the running game and the passing game. Carson Wentz didn't even get sacked last night. That's the beauty of it all. He didn't even get touched last night. That's important. I applaud the offensive line last night. They did a great job. Not just a good job, a great job. And they showed up and showed out. They showed up and showed out. And they're a big reason why the Eagles won the game last night. But I'm going to give y'all the biggest reason that the Eagles won the game last night. But also the biggest concern. The defense. Yeah, the defense gave up 27 points. They played pathetic. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But Derek Barnett forced a fumble on Aaron Rodgers. And the defense also got an interception. Interception that could have been called for pass interference, but, you know, it is what it is. And the NFL's got to do something about this pass interference rule because they call it inconsistently, number one. Number two, there shouldn't even be a pass interference rule at all. But Sean Payton pressured the league into making a pass interference rule because they got hosed by a call in the NFC Championship game. We all know it's pass interference, but refs miss calls all the time. I get it was egregious, but now this is what you have. You have a situation where the game is slowing down. You have a situation where we're analyzing every single thing. Everything looks worse in slow motion. Of course, everything's going to look like pass interference when you slow it down. I mean, come on. But I just want to get to this defense, man. Aaron Rodgers had a field day on this secondary. This secondary is the worst secondary in the entire NFL. It is. This secondary is pathetic. And if the Eagles think that they can contend for a Super Bowl with this moribund of a secondary, with this pathetic of a secondary, their Super Bowl dreams are going to go right out the window if they don't make a move. Aaron Rodgers was 34 of 53 for 422 yards and 2 touchdowns. We're just lucky the Green Bay Packers can't convert in the red zone. But Aaron Rodgers was throwing balls at the seam all day. Row, row, row your corner gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Touchdowns up the seam. That's what he was doing to us. Avonte Maddox, Sidney Jones before he ultimately got hurt, getting roasted by Devontae Adams. How do you give up 100 yards receiving in the first quarter to one player? How do you do that? I mean, it's just Eagles can't cover anybody. They can't cover anybody. Their rush defense does good. Against lead backs this year versus the Eagles, Darius Geis, 10 attempts, 18 yards, 0 touchdowns. Devontae Freeman, 11 attempts, 22 yards, 0 touchdowns. Kerryon Johnson, 20 carries, 36 yards, 1 touchdown. Aaron Jones last night, 13 carries, 21 yards, 1 touchdown. That is a total of 54 attempts for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Eagles' rushing defense is elite. They're elite. But of course, the Eagles' secondary is porous. against number one receivers this year. Terry McLaurin, a rookie, 5 receptions, 125 yards, a touchdown. Against Julio, 5 receptions, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. Against Marvin Jones, 6 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. And against Devontae Adams, 10 receptions, 180 yards, 0 touchdowns. And in total, they've given up 26 receptions, 512 yards, and 4 touchdowns to number one wide receivers of the opposing team. This is disgusting to watch. Every receiver that goes against the Philadelphia Eagles secondary looks like Jerry Rice. They look like Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver of all time. They look like Jerry Rice and Calvin Johnson. You have dudes that just don't turn their head. You got dudes just getting roasted off the line of scrimmage. You got dudes giving up, playing outside leverage when you have inside help. Or when you don't have inside help, rather, excuse me. You got dudes, literally, there was a play where the Eagles were playing cover 2 sink, actually. And for those who don't, I'm not going to get into it. It's too complex. But needless to say, for those who do know, Avonte Maddox is playing cover 2 sink. And in that type of coverage, if the running back stays in, there's one wide receiver lined up on his side, and the running back is in the backfield on the right side. And if the running back stays in the block, you can just go with the wide receiver, basically man up on him, because there's no one else on that side. So that basically becomes your man. It's a match coverage. And for some reason, Avonte Maddox lets the guy go straight inside, and he just stands there in his zone instead of manning up with him. The running back is already blocking, staying in the block. Just go and cover the receiver. I don't get it. Corners not playing their responsibilities. And then you give a touchdown in 50 seconds to Aaron Rodgers? This defense is undisciplined. Penalties all over the yard yesterday. Zach Brown, Derek Barnett, Rodney McLeod. We were just grabbing above the face mask all first half. Undisciplined football gets you beat, especially against good quarterbacks that can throw in your secondary. This is disgusting to watch. It is. And then it just came to you just can't make this stuff up. It's like the Eagles have the most injury-prone DBs in the league. This is the second straight year that Ronald Darby's gotten hurt, that Sidney Jones consistently has a hamstring issue. And then yesterday, Avonte Maddox gets hurt. But it wasn't because he hit someone. It wasn't because someone ran over him. It's because one of our own players blasted him, Andre Sendejo. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up with this secondary, man. And they had to leave him out on a stretcher. Hope he's well. There's reports that he traveled back home with the team on the team plane, so he's good. Underwent test for concussion, so he's all right. Just got to go through further testing. So speedy recovery for Avonte Maddox. But do you guys realize that the Eagles had a guy named Craig James in on the final sequence of plays against the Green Bay Packers? Craig James just signed up off the street a couple of days before the game. A couple of days before the game, he was signed up off the street. And he ended up starting yesterday, or ended up in the game yesterday at the most crucial moment. And you know what Aaron Rodgers did? He went right at him because he got out the practice squad. Who else would you go at? And he made a play. The Eagles busted a coverage on a slant flat play design by the Green Bay Packers and left the guy in the flat wide open. Malcolm Jenkins switched, and Craig James obviously didn't get that communication. But how can I expect him to when he just got on the field and he just got on the team? I have no expectations for him. But the Eagles got the interception. It was pass interference. I will admit it as an Eagles fan, and we benefited from it. But I don't care. It is what it is. But I'll tell you one thing. Howie Roseman should have been on the phone last night during the game calling Jacksonville. He should have been on the phone. And you guys know where I'm going with this. Howie Roseman better be working the phone the next 9 to 10 days, because we have 10 days off now until we play the New York Jets, which should be an easy victory as far as I'm concerned, because they don't have a quarterback. But Howie Roseman should be working this phone and giving up whatever it takes to get Jalen Ramsey. Whatever it takes. The only players I consider untouchable on this team: Fletcher Cox, Carson Wentz, Lane Johnson, and probably Brandon Brooks. Anything else you have to give up to get Jalen Ramsey? Give it up. If the Jaguars want 2 first-round picks, give it up. He's worth it. Khalil Mack went for 2 first-round picks. He's the best edge rusher of football. Jalen Ramsey's the best corner of football in the passing league. And your corners, they stink. They stink. They're hurt all the time and they stink. Jalen Ramsey's played every game in his career. He shut down DeAndre Hopkins. He shut down Antonio Brown. He shut down elite receivers in this game. He's the best corner in football. I don't want to hear anything about Steven Gilmore. I don't want to hear anything about Darius Slay. I don't want to hear anything about Casey Hayward. I don't want to hear anything about Xavier Howard. I don't want to hear anything about any of these other defensive backs. They play corner. I don't want to hear it. Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in football. It's not even close. It's not close. He's long. He's athletic. He makes plays on the football. He reads his keys in zone. He locks you down in man coverage. He's hip to hip to you. He's got great footwork. He's got great eye recognition. He's a good tackler. He's always around the ball. You can put him on a number 1 receiver, and they're basically on vacation for the day. They're on lockdown. Jalen Ramsey is that elite. He is worth whatever it takes to get him onto this Eagles squad. If they think that they're Super Bowl contenders, I think they're Super Bowl contenders, but not with their secondary, I don't. I know that the Philadelphia Eagles believe they're Super Bowl contenders. I know they expect to get to the big game. Well, if they expect to get to the big game, then you need to give up whatever it takes to get Jalen Ramsey. You need to give it up. Your quarterback room is suspect already, but now everyone's hurt. Jalen Mills still isn't back yet. Ronald Darby's hurt, and when he's not hurt, he's getting torched. Avonte Maddox got abused last night. Rasul Douglas is nice, but he's not athletic enough to cover a number 1 receiver. And Sidney Jones is always hurt. I get on the Pittsburgh Steelers for having a bad secondary, but theirs is mostly due to scheming by Keith Butler and Mike Tomlin. This secondary is just it's just horrible. It's just horrible. The DBs that Howie Roseman has drafted over the years. Let me name you some of these guys. Nate Allen, Trevard Lindley, Kurt Coleman, Jaquan Jarrett, Curtis Marsh, Brandon Boykin, Earl Wolf, Jordan Poyer, Jalen Watkins, Ed Reynolds, Blake Countess, Jalen Mills, Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, Avonte Maddox. Which one of these guys do you want on your roster right now? Please, someone. You don't want any of these guys. Probably the best one out the bunch is Brandon Boykin, because he was a good slot corner at some point. But Chip Kelly ultimately traded him away. If Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles front office thinks that they're going to go to a Super Bowl with this pathetic of a secondary in a passing league, when you get to the playoffs and you play elite teams, they're most likely to throw the football. You're sadly mistaken. Dak Prescott looks like an improved thrower. Aaron Rodgers is still going to make the playoffs. Drew Brees might come back and they might make the playoffs. Atlanta's already torched your secondary. Seattle with Russell Wilson can torch your secondary. Matthew Stafford can torch your secondary. I mean, it just is what it is. You need good corners to stop these passing attacks, or at least to make plays on the ball. I don't care what the price is. Give it up for Jalen Ramsey. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. If the Eagles want to contend, it's simple. Trade for Jalen Ramsey. Give up whatever it takes. I don't care. If we get Jalen Ramsey in the Eagles uniform and you don't give up the players I already mentioned, then I don't care. I don't. We need to get Jalen Ramsey in midnight green. He needs to be arriving in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He doesn't want to play in Jacksonville. He reiterated it yesterday. He said, quote, "Once respect is lost on both sides, I think it's best to move on." He's done. He's done playing for Jacksonville. Tom Coughlin has ruined the relationship. And he's the best corner of football. If Howie Roseman is smart, he's going to have to trade for Jalen Ramsey. He's going to have to. Eagles don't have any corners. They're all hurt, except for Rasul Douglas, number one. You have to sign some guys from wherever now, which doesn't bode well. But if the Eagles want any chance, they're going to have to trade for Jalen Ramsey. I don't see another way. The Eagles are going to have to trade for Jalen Ramsey. And if they don't, well, we're going to continue seeing what we've seen against number one wide receivers. But that's all I have for today. I just had to come and say that. I'm glad the Eagles got the victory. But overall, if they want to compete for a Super Bowl, they're going to have to trade for Jalen Ramsey. There's no other way around it. And as an Eagles fan, I'm desperate. So give it whatever it takes. Thank you guys for listening. I'll be back on Monday to talk about the rest of the NFL games that I see. And I'll be back on Tuesday to talk about the Steelers game on Monday Night Football. So until then, you guys enjoy this. If you're an Eagles fan or if you just want to listen. Also, if you guys want me to talk about something, there's still time. Leave your questions under the previous episode or under this one, and I'll answer them for this coming week. Thank you guys for listening. I'm out.